Shows that make you laugh. Shows that make you think. Music that moves you. It could only be one place. Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Hello, everybody. Happy Easter weekend and Good Friday and also Passover. It's Passover.
It's Passover.
Tonight is Passover, and as we are speaking, I am making a noodle kugel. Mm-hmm. And I just had an incident at a local kosher market where I had pre-bought some kosher chickens, and there was a little bit of a fight at the kosher market. John, a little bit of a fight. Anyway, Lori Schwartz here, Tech Trends impacting your business. Tech Cat here to take you through some fabulous technology trends. And today we're going to talk about content and commerce and how there is a phenomena, a huge trend right now going on online where content, storytelling, video is actually driving retail sales online into baskets. And it's really exciting. And I'm not talking about just product shots, but actual storytelling around products where we're leveraging influencers. So I'm going to get into that in a second, but we also have a fabulous guest who's going to be joining us in a little bit by Skype, and that's Erik Huberman, who is the CEO of Hawke Media. And I'm calling him the Outsourced CMO, or he's actually calls himself that, because his company, Hawke Media, is fascinating. Rather than being a traditional agency who takes on a client, a brand, and helps them with their media and marketing, Hawke Media actually acts as almost an a la carte agency where anybody can go to them and say, can you just handle this email campaign, or can you just do this Facebook thing for me, or do a newsletter for me, and not have to lay out a big budget and not have to sign a big deal. And it's sort of a modern approach to marketing and media. As many brands, the big ones, move away from what we were calling AORs, or agency of record relationships, where you sign a big contract and you're with this one company for a long time. This instead is an a la carte agency that helps small companies and big ones get work done in a way that's financially reasonable and you know, without really causing a ruckus. A ruckus that happened to me today in the kosher market. Let me tell you, even if I wasn't in a kosher market today, you cannot find an egg, a piece of chocolate, or a piece of matzah, because every supermarket has been raided. And I did buy a nice piece of pot roast 3 days ago. My husband and I went ahead knowing that there would be ruckuses throughout Southern Cal.
You didn't do Amazon Fresh?
No, I didn't do Amazon Fresh because, you know, we like to poke at the pot roast before we buy it. Any technology catalyst will tell you that. You got to see the meat before you buy the meat. But it was really in the kosher chickens that today there was a ruckus. Anyway, getting back to our topic at hand, content and commerce. And I wanted to set the stage with this before we dial Erik in. But have you ever shopped online where you looked at video of a product before you bought it?
Sure.
And was it product shots or was it somebody modeling the product?
Usually product shots.
Product shots, right.
Yeah, because normally I look at technology.
Right. Yeah. So gallery shots, product shots, 360s have been around for a long time. What we're starting to see, which I think is very exciting, is actually leveraging talent. And we call them influencers, but it actually could be someone who just looks good in certain types of clothing or whatever the product is, modeling, contextualizing the product that's being sold. So an example of this is one of my favorite sites right now who's really, I think, innovating in this space is joyous.com, joyus.com. And I'm going to center the conversation around mostly fashion and style right now in the women's demographic, because that's where a lot of this innovation is happening first, which kind of makes sense. But joyous.com actually has fashionistas, like women that specialize in fashion, in a studio, shooting them, talking about a product, wearing the product, telling what's good about the product and showing the many uses of that product inside of the window on the site. But what also is going on in that window is there's a basket for commerce, and it's all tied together in one unit. And also in that same unit, in that same window, are other accessories and products that map back to the one that the person is talking about. So it's not just product shots. It's actually all about the item and what it goes with and how it works. And you actually get to see it on somebody. And you're hearing from someone that has an expertise.
So it's a show?
It's like a show.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a show. But it's not a, it's not a 2-hour talk show. It's not a fashion show.
Right.
It's little video clips about the product with a person talking about the product.
Okay.
And what they have come to discover is that revenue goes up, sales go up, engagement goes up when you have that kind of content talking about a product. And because it's all enclosed in this unit, this video unit, they can actually distribute that whole unit. So what happens is their little sales engine, this little video unit, actually goes onto other people's sites for content. So you can find joyous.com's little video unit with certain products being demonstrated and talked about on people.com. So I'm on people.com and I'm in the fashion style section and I'm reading up about, the latest boho fashion, because I'm so chic. And for those of you that don't know, bohemian. Anyway, and what'll happen is I'll come across a model talking about a particular item and I'll be able to look at other products like it and I'll be able to buy it right then and there. That's actually joyous.com's window.
Okay.
And they share the revenue with people.com. So it's a whole new business model too. It's sort of an extension of affiliate marketing. People loves it because it gives them well-produced video content in the fashion vertical. Joyous loves it because they get distribution.
Right.
And the consumer loves it because I get to see my product in use. And it used to be, at least for me, I don't know how you feel about this, but do you buy anything these days without reading a ton of reviews?
No.
Because online, especially Amazon and Best Buy and a lot of these other sites, I read extensively
Me too.
About the product. And I do look for video footage on products now because because I'm a trendmeister, now I know this is happening, but also it works.
Yeah.
Because when you can see the product in someone's hand and them using it and then them talking about the positives and the negatives. So here's where it gets really interesting is that then all these commerce sites now are building little studios inside of their companies. So you see this weird merger now of Hollywood expertise and content retail technology coming together. And it's going to be popping up all over the place. And again, it's really starting in that fashion style vertical. But other sites that I love that are starting to percolate around this are like build.com. Have you ever been to build.com?
No.
So build.com is not quite using video, but they have some other really interesting things going on. So what they do is they are basically competitor to Home Depot and Lowe's. But you never go into a physical store. There is no build.com store anywhere. The entire experience on build.com is basically about satisfying your needs for information about products. So they actually have like experts, on the site, and you see their picture and you can talk to them and you can ask them questions. And they're experts in bathroom or in kitchen or in tile. And then when you're looking at products, again, up comes other products that most people buy when they're buying that product. And it gives you instructions on how to install, and it tells you, different things, reviews, all that. So it's a complete content experience that replaces the need to go and walk into that store.
Interesting.
And the thing that serves all of these sites right now is data. Right? So what's happening to these sites is unlike some of the bigger sites who may not change the user experience for months at a time because they're big engines. I mean, I don't really know. I don't have the information on how quickly Amazon or Walgreens or Walmart or even Target changes their user experience. I suspect it's a big deal to do that. But these sites, these nimble modern retail sites that have so much content, actually iterate the user experience continuously, because they're looking at what's working. Did that video sell fast? Did it go out? Should I move it down and push other product up? And how are people following the video and where are they going online? And they're actually looking at the site, iterating, changing, and moving things around.
Now, technology companies have been doing it for a while, though, right? Like
Yeah.
Tiger Direct and
Yes.
CNET and
Yeah.
various different ones. to
Various companies
demonstrate.
that are forced to iterate because they're in that business, basically, have been doing that for a while. This is more
Fashion
of,
and so forth,
yeah,
taking
this
the
is
lead.
more of, exactly. And also really looking at what money is being spent, like how the revenue is being generated per product.
Well, I think that's why HSN and
Yeah,
various
HSN
different
is a
companies-
leader.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And here's some interesting tidbits from Joyous. I've heard them speak a few times, and I thought this was very interesting. So first of all, they talk about video commerce being like good narrative, and that the product becomes the hero. So it's not just about like, here is a great hat. Like, there's a story about the hat, and people relate to storytelling.
Sure.
So if you can grab me on a story, I'm more likely to stay engaged with that product, right? And they also said that it's all about finding and creating the right expert. So if that person who's talking about the hat is a known expert in haberdashery, which I don't know if any of you knew is a hat person,
No,
but
I did not.
haberdashery, if they trust that person, if they have cred, that also helps in the sale and in the watching of that video. And they said that generally around 3 seconds to 3 minutes is the length of these videos. If you go longer, people tune out, and if you're not long enough, they're not getting all the information they need. Yeah, there's some real science to this now. They're actually talking about how commerce content is actually really sticky. How 55% of users on their site will watch that product information, whether there's a famous host or a known host or whatever it is. As long as that person can establish credibility, then you have the viewer engaged, right? And then they talked a lot about the need for partnerships like people.com, native advertising, where you talk about a product as if it's editorial.
And that's more for eyeballs.
For eyeballs, to get the content out there.
Sure.
So because you have content, you start to move into content marketing and entertainment marketing strategies rather than pure retail.
Got it.
It's very interesting.
It
and
is.
It's, I think, interesting because a lot of content companies are moving in the direction of productizing their IP. So, for instance, are you familiar with Awesomeness.tv? So, Awesomeness is started out as a multi-channel network, a YouTube channel, all about millennial content. It was actually founded by Brian Robbins, who's was a child actor. In one of those shows, I always forget the show he was on, like head of the class or something like that. He was in one of those shows.
Okay.
He starts Awesomeness.tv. It's all millennial content. It's short form, instant gratification, totally up that whole millennial speed. And it does so well, it gets bought by DreamWorks, and then they start expanding. And they're doing movies, they're doing books, and now they're starting to get into products. So if one of their content deals does well, if a movie or a show or an idea does well, they create products around it. Shirts, cooking things, dolls, whatever it is. So now they're becoming a retailer. And so inside of their universe, they have to figure out, okay, how do I sell this product? And so now you're seeing the content side of the business move over to retail. And they have to use some of the same techniques.
Sure.
So it's just a really interesting world now where these two sides are, playing aggressively in this game. And I think they're really directly being competitive with the Amazons and the Walmarts and the Targets.
Do you think more people are shopping online as a result, or do you think they're still wanting to go into the store and experience for themselves?
Oh, I mean, I think the numbers of online shopping and particularly mobile engagement are sky high, and the traffic in stores is steadily decreasing all the time. In fact, mall traffic is like abysmal right now. And you can look at any holiday stats, and that's just the case, which is why the other trend you're starting to see is malls and shopping places become destination sites, like we have in Los Angeles, the Grove.
Sure.
Or even some of the Westfield malls that have great restaurants and a lot of kid activities and sports and different things happening, because people aren't going to malls just to shop anymore. So they have to create value around the experience of showing up. And then if they can get people into the mall, then shopping happens.
Sure. So what about shipping?
Say it again.
Shipping.
Yeah, well, shipping now is obviously down to a science. Amazon has spoiled us all.
Right.
I expect everything to arrive within a day or two.
Especially with Amazon Prime,
Oh
right?
yeah, Amazon Prime I've had for years, and I think my whole sort of working mom life depends on it.
Yeah.
Especially for like the birthday party rounds, right? Like I'll remember midweek, oh my God, we have 2 parties this weekend, and I go on the line and I figure out what we're going to get. And by the way, that's exactly when I want to look at the product and read reviews and make sure I'm getting something that's age appropriate and also highly rated by moms. And I love to see videos of kids using the product, which there's a site called Fat Brain Toys. And sometimes on that site, it's a fabulous site. They have like comparison tools, and you can say, I've got a 3-year-old girl who likes outdoors, and they'll spit up recommendations. But they show videos of the toys being used. Okay. Because you don't know.
Right.
You don't know what you're getting.
Right. And I think there was a girl on YouTube that was doing like sort of product reviews of toys and things like that.
Yeah, there are a couple of different toy sites out
she
there.
got really famous from it, actually.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few. I mean, look at what happened to Michelle Phan, right? Do you know Michelle Phan? She's like the makeup queen, basically.
Okay.
And she came out talking about doing how-tos of makeup. I think her most famous one that really launched her was Lady Gaga.
Okay.
It's amazing what she does. But now she has a makeup line, and she has other products, and her whole message is, be kind to yourself, and you are valuable and you are worthy. Endemol has signed her. She launched a makeup line through either Maybelline or L'Oreal. She has a new TV series coming out through Endemol and Shine. So lots of things happening for her. And she started out as someone doing how-tos.
Yeah.
And then people would buy the makeup item that she was using from the how-to site.
Smart.
But there was no retail connection to that, right?
Yeah.
There was no like push on this YouTube video and go to a basket to buy that item. Now you're starting to see more of that being layered in, where I can click on the lipstick and be taken to the site or to the basket with overlays on top of the video.
Right.
But I think the other model of just creating this experience where I get educated about a product is really the win-win here.
Yeah.
And I think here, this is going to be more relevant to brands and advertisers. But here's something that Joya CEO, her name is Sukhinder Cassidy, and she said that everyone in the online retail space, has to move away from just thinking about engagement statistics and brand marketing when it comes to video online, and that you can actually drive direct to sales with video online. Like, start to think of it more as, I can actually assign a revenue per view to this piece of video, not just talk about it, do branding,
like mini infomercials.
And yes, and going back to HSN, that's what HSN has done so famously, and all the different TV shopping networks. But now online, you have a host of data to support everything you're doing, and then you have all this great video, and then you reach out to talent. So it blows my mind when I think about these like tech companies building out mini stages in their offices in Silicon Valley to take advantage of this trend, right?
Yeah.
But that's the world that we're in, right? And they're hiring talent.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And becoming experts.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What I was talking about earlier was more about the as seen on TV demonstrations.
Yes.
So the people who go and buy the product and then they actually do a non-biased review.
Yes. I've seen that model too, and and that absolutely works. But remember, for a long time, it was dial this 800 number. Yeah. It was those late night infomercials. So all we're doing is we're taking that phenomena and that behavior that kind of worked, but now we're backing into technology, big data, and the ability to really understand what the user is doing and how powerful video content is. I mean, it's insane. And you're starting to see like other sites, like there's a company called Fuse Media who I absolutely love as well. And they have a way to really create interactive overlays on top of video really quickly. So it's not this painful process, because for years it's been so painful. And so you're starting to see brands use that so that the video window has like hotspots on it, and you can roll over it to find out more product information. information and then click on it to go to a place where you can buy the product or find out more. And so really just creating an experience for a consumer that makes it easy for me to buy.
Yeah, and I had actually noticed that with I have AT&T Uverse.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was watching something on DVR, and it was like, click here, for more information. And this was a DVR, so this wasn't live, and I could actually click there, and it would bring me up to another information page, and that would resume later.
And those are called interactive ads or iAds. And I tried to do a bunch of those a couple years ago, more in the cable ecosystem, and it was very painful because all the cable companies have different technology and different set-top boxes, and they couldn't tell you the data and all of that. But in an IP world, in an internet protocol world with fiber, like Uverse or even with Fios, you're basically mirroring the same behaviors that I would have at my desktop, but with my remote control. I think the big joke for years and years and years was, I want to buy Jennifer Aniston's T-shirt, sweater on Friends. That was like the one line that everyone would say at any like interactive TV panel about commerce. But the truth is the cable operators are woefully behind, and broadband is driving a lot of tech solutions much faster than anybody else is.
You would think with smart TVs we'd be a little more
Oh my God, that's a whole nother conversation. I mean, it's kind of heartbreaking, really. Because they all have, again, they suffer from the same legacy infrastructures. I think Samsung's actually just shutting down their connected TV interface and some of the channels and protocols that they were using and swapping it out because it didn't work. And as a brand, again, do I want to create the same connected TV app 100 different times so it works on all these different things?
Right.
I'd rather just build it once and have it work on the internet.
Exactly.
You know, so there's all that challenges. And we're going to dial up Erik in a minute. But the other thing that I thought was really interesting was that for a long time, and this is still happening, you have a lot of brands who want to prove that watching something online does drive to purchase. And you and I were kind of saying, well, people aren't going into stores anymore. But with a lot of this type of content, and if there's some sort of delivery of a code or a coupon or something like that, you can tie offline and online together. And certainly with the mobile phone, which could be, a whole discussion in itself, you're starting to see all sorts of proximity solutions and beaconing and things like that will allow for you to really understand what that consumer is doing.
Right.
So it's crazy, sexy stuff. So let's try and dial up Erik and see if we can get him on the horn.
All right.
And I'll give a little background on Erik. So Erik is the CEO of Hawke Media, and he's been involved with the execution and delivery of consumer-facing e-commerce companies for the last 7 years. He's worked with Verizon, Bally's, Redbull, and Evite. In fact, I actually met him through Verizon when we were working on an internet retailer conference. So he's like the most knowledgeable guy in the world about e-commerce. He always blows my mind. So let's see if we can get him.
Nope.
No, not
got
there?
his voicemail, so I tried.
Let's try it. Well, I'll text him, and while we're still chatting some more. The other thing that I was going to try and do today was to Periscope while I was broadcasting. Have you played with Periscope at all?
No, what's that?
So Periscope is part of Twitter's new video solution. I'm just dialing Erik right now. Are you there?
I also have another question for you.
Well, Periscope is a live streaming solution that sits on top of Twitter's API, basically. So you download Periscope, and it basically logs you in through Twitter. And so you have access to all your Twitter friends and to all the people that you follow. And then you can just click a button and stream live. Nice. So right now what we can do while we're looking for Erik to join is... I'm gonna dial up Periscope, and I'm gonna stream us.
All right.
And Periscope, I'm gonna actually stream you, John.
Okay.
And Periscope was bought by Twitter back in January, but the big darling at South by Southwest in this space was a company called Meerkat. So a couple of weeks ago, everyone was really excited about Meerkat. Oh, Erik said he's on. Okay. And what I'm doing right now is we are broadcasting live on Periscope with John. So say hi.
Hello.
And we are here talking about commerce and content on Universal, the broadcasting network. And I'm just going to turn the camera around and see if we can. Hi.
There you are.
We're here talking about content and commerce.
And I have Erik on the line.
And we have Erik on the line. Erik Huberman of Hawke Media. Erik, say hi to everybody.
Hi, how are you?
So Erik is, again, from Hawke Media, and we're calling him the Outsourced CMO, or that's actually what Erik calls himself. Erik, tell us a little bit about Hawke Media and what you're doing there.
Sure. So basically, we act as an outsourced CMO and digital marketing teams for a lot of big and small brands. The idea being a la carte and month to month, so we can look at a brand and really assess what their needs are and where they're missing holes in their marketing team, and just plug in, whether it's taking over the entire digital marketing arm of their business or just plugging one single thing like influencer marketing or email marketing, Facebook marketing, those kind of things.
And you are one of the few people I know that knows more about retail than anybody I know. Did the retail piece, the commerce piece, was that what people first came to you for, and is that why you developed such an expertise in it?
So I've had 3 different e-commerce companies that all have done pretty well. First was a music company and one-on-one coaching, but the second 2 were both fashion companies. A T-shirt subscription company called Swag of the Month that I sold, and then a company out of Science, the incubator in Santa Monica that launched like Dollar Shave Club. I was head of marketing for a company called Bally, which is an activewear brand. So got hands-on experience before going to the outsourced CMO kind of model.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit more about that model, because it's fascinating. And people who aren't in the agency business don't necessarily understand how revolutionary this model is. But maybe you could set the stage for that, because it's literally fascinating and it's so modern what you're doing.
Sure, and thank you. Basically,
I'm your biggest fan.
No, and I appreciate it. Really what I saw being on the brand side was there were a few kind of pain points. One was you had to go to so many different agencies to do so many different things. So if I wanted to do Facebook marketing, I had my Facebook agency. Then I had a search agency. And then when I go to these like one-stop shop, as they call themselves, full-service agencies, they never really actually had the right culture, or, I'd say the right culture to actually be full service, to actually replace having a marketing team. So that mixed with the fact that every one of them would serve me with these 6-month or 1-year agreements that why am I signing a 6-month agreement when I've never worked with you before? That's like getting married to someone that I just got a phone call from. Like, it shouldn't work that way. And
you just described my dating life.
Sorry, and I was going to say, if you're going to do a good job as an agency, now there's going to be things that you lose clients over, but they're usually going to be things that you should lose clients over, whether you're not performing or they have an internal problem that they have to fire you. There's neither way should you be locking someone in. You should just be setting expectations. And most of our clients stick around for, I think our average client stays for close to a year. It's not an issue. We don't have an attrition issue at all because we do what we say we're going to do, and people get what they expect. And so we haven't needed contracts. And that's been a kind of breath of fresh air to a lot of brands, because they can try it out with us. They can use us as a sandbox and testing ground for new marketing channels, because back to the culture statement, we're more about we hire smart people and quick learners, not necessarily just people that know that one channel and are never going to learn anything again. Because as we've seen in the short time we've been in business even, things change and pivot constantly. New marketing channels come out, Snapchat launches its advertising, influencer marketing becomes less direct response and more brand driven, and you can't get the same results off of it. All sorts of things that we stay on top of so that we constantly add value.
Yeah, because you're living and breathing this world on a daily basis, and you're not trying to pay for butts and seats that have nothing to do with that client's business. Which is really
exactly
the stress on the current model, where a big agency is paying for everybody else on that client's dollar when they have nothing to do with that piece of business. And that was just an accepted model for so long. Well, we were talking about Joyous.com, who you turned me on to and who I'm obsessed about, and who I've gotten them speaking gigs all year long, because I just think what they're doing is so revolutionary. So can you tell us some of the trends that you're seeing in the commerce space? I talked a lot about content driving commerce and about reiterating that a lot of these new commerce sites do to respond to the user experience and really paying attention to their data and rebuilding their sites, monthly, as opposed to some of the big monolith sites. So what are some of the other trends that you're seeing in the e-commerce space?
Yeah, so, honestly, I think content, it's so funny because you go out to any marketing conference, any retail conference, everybody talks about content just king. It is the buzzword of the day, but then you go to execute it, and so many brands still don't understand what they need. And we are finally, in, I'd say, maybe the past couple months, seeing brands open, for lack of a better term, open their wallets to the idea of content marketing and the idea of this long tail, customer nurturing thing where they're generating content and producing content and becoming their own publishers. And that actually does have a translation. I mean, looking at the best examples always are Redbull, GoPro. These are companies that have done an incredible job of generating content that honestly, it's not pitching their brand. It's more about just content people want to digest, and it happens to highlight their brand constantly. You can see the results in the long term. But what they can't do, which is what a lot of marketers struggle with, is they can't draw a straight line to the ROI of putting money into content marketing, which is what people are starting to be okay with not knowing.
They're actually want that direct ROI. And it's funny that you say all that because Joyous Sukhinder actually speaks a lot about, think about video as direct response, not just for brand marketing. So she's kind of gone even further out and said video can push to the basket. So don't only think about it for storytelling. Do you agree with that as well?
I think, yes, I do. The problem is the performance for video on direct response is not as high as a performance on, an example, Facebook, a Facebook advertisement. And we've actually tested Facebook video versus just Facebook banners. Banners still perform better based on the cost than video.
Because video is
on a direct response.
Yeah, got it.
But once again, you run a company on direct response and you're building a house of cards. The moment you stop that and the moment you saturate in your audience, you're done.
Right. And that's more for like local markets, come to the tire store and, get the tires this weekend, as opposed to a more, global or national play where you're storytelling. I just saw a great case study by the folks over at 72 and Sunny with their Starbucks client. I don't know if you saw this stuff. It was called Meet Me in Starbucks. And it was shot about a year ago, and it was basically a documentary. They sent out directors to Starbucks globally on one day, and they followed people at Starbucks that they had identified, and they just followed what they were doing at Starbucks, and they threw it all together. And there's I think a 3-minute version of the documentary, but then they also built a new video window with YouTube. YouTube helped them, and you can actually see like a gallery of fun little interactive videos. It looks like GIFs, but it's actually video that you can roll over and pick which story you want to follow. And then they also made the long story have little like bumps on the video line where you could like click in on the bump and go into a deeper version of the story. But their whole thing here was, I don't want to see product shots. I'm not highlighting any products. I am really just here to specifically talk about the ethos, the attributes of Starbucks and why life happens at Starbucks. And I think they were very pleased with it. What I was more curious about, and I don't know where you're seeing activity here, is where the budget's coming from for content. Because are they coming out of content budgets from a brand? Are they coming out of PR? Or are they coming out of media?
Marketing.
Marketing?
Coming out of marketing. Yeah, and sometimes they're media budget, but which is kind of goes hand in hand. But it's a market. Usually, I'm seeing it's a marketing expense. Sometimes they justify it in PR, but most of the time, PR is doing what they're doing in terms of external content, and that's obviously a little different. But when a content generation, I usually see it coming out of some side of their digital budget, their marketing budget.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I asked the 72 and Sunny folks, and they said that they ended up getting the budget for this from a lot of different business units inside of Starbucks, but it also included a media budget to drive people within the YouTube environment to see the video. So it's not like, media buys still need to happen. People still have to find and discover the content. But then you need a separate budget for the content itself. And that's what people have such a hard time wrapping their heads around, right?
And that's what people forget. And then people forget that content isn't about just building it and waiting for them to come. This isn't Field of Dreams. You've got to syndicate that content. And there's got to be a steroids put behind it, for lack of a better term, where you're going to use, like if it's written content, you're going to use Outbrain, Taboola, these networks. And just for those that don't know, these are where you pay to have, like if you're reading an article on CNN and you see all the suggested articles at the bottom, notice they're not usually on CNN because people are paying for that space to put their content in front of readers that may be interested in reading their content. That's a very good strategy for a lot of brands. There's a lot of big ones that we work with that use that as their number one driver.
That's like the native advertising that we were talking about earlier, where Joyous Sukinder, the CEO there, speaks about that a lot, that she really depends on native advertising to draw traffic into that great video content that she's creating. Are there other trends in commerce that you're seeing that are exciting you?
The ease of mobile is getting better. I've seen, obviously, mobile traffic is like something like 70% of commerce traffic now, but people have traditionally had to either make a mobile site, and making a responsive site is now a very, very simple process, and that is new, I'd say, in the past year. That has become easier. And so responsive as a whole, which meaning where the site actually changes to fit mobile better so that you can capture a mobile audience better, is becoming a lot easier, and we're just seeing the benefits there. I think that's been great for commerce online. That has been, night and day, because, traditionally before that, the conversion rates on a site on mobile that hasn't been optimized for mobile, it's about a tenth of what it is on desktop. Now we're seeing similar rates to mobile. I think also just as a culture, people are more comfortable putting their credit card in on their cell phone these days. Or things like Apple Pay help as well. Yeah,
all those different things that, I can't stand whipping out my credit card and entering it on websites anymore. I always try and use PayPal or whatever other instantaneous thing, because then it's like too much effort, and it shuts me down. But what I've also noticed about a lot of these native advertising sites, or the sites that are kind of clickbait, is the user experience is horrible. You're reading a native ad, you go to follow it through where they make all their money, and then all of a sudden your phone is just filled with banner ads and pop-up ads, and then you can't even find the article. It's so horrible.
Well, that's something we harp on a lot, which is keep it simple. That's the function of a site, not just taking a WordPress or a Shopify layout and just making an easy site that's already built to be responsive. These newer companies, a lot of them still think that building a custom site is a good thing. And now, I can tell you our whole team cringes when we hear custom. It's just, there's no reason. Unless you have some crazy proprietary software you're building. When I'm speaking to commerce, obviously there's reasons to build a site from scratch if you're building a new web product. But when you're an e-commerce company, you're a product company, focus on what you're good at and use the tools out there that are available to make it easy, because they're there. 10 years ago you couldn't do this, but the tools are now amazing.
Well, and you and I are heading out next week to the iMedia Commerce Summit, and you're going to be moderating Minneapolis. Hopefully Minneapolis will have some snow, because I'm so sick of the heat. But in April, you're moderating a panel about sort of some of the bigger trends that big retailers are up against, which is that they're actually being there's competition to these big retailers from little tiny companies that specialize in just niche content. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's absolutely fascinating, that these big sites have to worry about these little tiny startups.
Yeah, and what it is it's just anyone can start a company now. I will tell you I found someone with a cool product. I could have them an e-commerce site built by the end of the weekend and get this launched and going. It's so, and that's not because that's not necessarily my skill set. I'm just talking about someone can go Google how to build their own e-commerce site in a weekend. It's not hard anymore. The hard part's getting through the fluff, but if you really do have a good product these days, there's ways to do that. And that's what, at the end of the day, you have to live and die by your product. But if you have a good product, you can get market share very quickly. People are not loyal. So companies that have been established and large for a long time, examples would be like a Nasty Gal, where they came up with a brand and got a lot of great products, and they're competing with the Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's and these established giant conglomerates, as this new retail site where they were a nobody, but now a lot of women like to shop there instead, and attacking these niches and knocking off pieces of market share from these big conglomerates is becoming easier, not harder. And so what we're talking about a little bit in Minneapolis is, to those big brands, how do they defend their market share? How do you stand on top of, if you're, I don't want to name any names to anger anyone, but if you're some of these big, retail stores, these big brands, let's take, another example would be, look at Dollar Shave Club.
Yes. Yeah. Disrupting the entire, right, disrupting the shaving market.
I'm part of them.
So is Nasty Girl a niche site though? Like, or is only a certain demographic going there, and do they only sell a particular kind of product, or are they as diverse as a Nordstrom's would be? So I would go to them all the time, or would I only go to them?
They want to be diverse. They hit less niche on the product level and more niche on, I'd say,
the brand concept.
Purchaser level. Yeah, the brand, exactly. They're not as wide, pleasing everybody. But
okay.
That being said, you could definitely, a certain type of person could do all their shopping there.
What about also, so many questions for you because he's so goddamn smart. But what about all these mobile apps where you're posting what you want to buy? Like I think Wanalo, and there's one called Hunt, and there's a bunch of them now where you download the app and you post what you want, and then the community tells you where it is, and then you get sent deals on it. Do you think those are like long-term experiences, or will those burn out as a fad, or what's going on in that sort of community-based crowdsource product shopping?
Sure. Without trying to say that I'm necessarily the expert on the shopping side, I'm still a young adult guy that doesn't do a lot of shopping. I would say that they all seem like features
Stick
that are
with
just
me.
a function of where we're at.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said, stick with me. I'm a professional shopper.
Yeah. I would say that it's more of a function of, we're at a place where everybody, once again, you can start a company so easily. You come up with any kind of idea, you can go launch it. I really think that a lot of people are coming out with apps that are more feature than company. As in, that's a cool feature for Nordstrom's to have, where I saw something I really like, I take a picture, now Nordstrom's tells me here's a similar product. But for an app to have that, people don't want this many different apps on their phone. And they're going to have a core audience that loves what they do, but I don't think that's mass market.
Right. So you think it'll all calm down eventually, and maybe the bigger brick and mortars will purchase these sites or will use what's working about them to their advantage.
Yeah, and not to be doom and gloom, but I think eventually a lot of these companies are going to not make money, and people are going to stop investing in them.
Right. So they'll be the bubble will burst a little bit in that area. Are there any trends coming up that haven't quite launched yet that you're excited about, or anything that you're starting to see percolate that you can get us excited about?
I think on the same note, there are a lot of cool softwares and features coming out and updates that are going to change the way e-commerce works, not in terms of a paradigm shift, but just simple things like digital sizing, the virtual reality stuff that's making it, the measuring tools that Bloomingdale's now has that you can go in there and get your sizing and know how things fit you on their website. These are pretty cool things that are pain points for a lot of digital shoppers.
Right, almost like the virtual glasses that what do you call it? The Oculus. Not the regular glasses. The company.
Oh, glass.
Yeah, regular glasses, sunglasses, and regular glasses, where you can buy it all online and it puts the glasses on your face. In the online experience.
Like Coastal.com?
Yeah, it's Coastal, but it's also, oh my God, and now they have their own stores. The well-known...
Warby Parker, you mean, right?
Warby Parker.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Oh my God, my brain stopped working. I was just telling John and our audience that I had a ruckus kosher chicken experience today. A Passover Easter kosher chicken explosion. So my head is a little backwards, but
don't worry.
So you'll see some of that technology rise to the top. John, you had a question for Erik.
Yeah, I was just wondering. You said that anybody can start a e-commerce business these days, and I'm wondering what are the best merchant accounts and shopping carts that you would recommend?
Honestly, we live by Shopify. When it's a simple, when there's not anything crazy needed, I tell everybody that's launching e-commerce, you're not a tech company, you're a product company. What's important is whatever you're selling. Whether you're a merchandiser or a manufacturer, you've got to focus on that. So Shopify, I really like. I'm not sponsored by them, I promise.
Maybe you should be now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe we should talk to them about sponsoring you.
Right.
I might have to put a call in, but yeah, they're great. And
so it's sort of it's a one-stop shop, like a turnkey solution?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they have a great marketplace for different plugins. So a shipping plugin, that makes it so you can just go to a quick print, and all your shipping labels are charged to your credit card and print out, and you can go ship it right there. Like all these things that you can set up, that you can operate a small business out of your home using Shopify, and you're talking about overhead being $150 a month once you're all said and done.
Well, that's fantastic. I would love to sell a lot of the junk that we have,
right?
Which would be like half of my husband's, storage. One day he'd come home and it would be all gone, and I would have Shopify to thank. Because there are a lot of markets in that area too to get rid of your own junk.
Yeah.
Sort of community-based shopping of used products. There's so much sort of community stuff going on in this space. It's so interesting. What about virtual currencies and cryptocurrency? Do you see Bitcoin and all the things happening in that space, which is kind of volatile and nobody really understands it, but there is activity there? Are you paying attention to that? Is that a part of your world now where you have to explain Bitcoin to clients? Are they asking about it? Where are you in that virtual currency area?
Sure. So I'm definitely paying attention. I've been looking at Bitcoin since it was $10 a coin, and watched it go to $1,200 a coin and then back down. So, but I'm one of the few people in tech that's not an evangelist for it. I don't think it's a currency. I think it's a great, and now I'm watching a lot of the Bitcoin people almost backpedal a little bit and agree that it's a way to move dollars in a cheaper way. It's not a currency. It's a great way to transfer money into Bitcoin and be able to transfer money without banks. That's where it's interesting. And I think that the whole, as they call it now, blockchain and the way they move money is where the interest is in Bitcoin. But actually investing in Bitcoin and taking Bitcoin, I honestly am not the biggest proponent for.
No, it's interesting.
But there's a lot of why not. Let me actually validate that. A lot of with an e-commerce site, you can plug in a thing like Dogecoin and accept Bitcoin, and then you're just opening yourself up to that tiny market of Bitcoin users that are going to like you better. So why not?
Yeah, it's so interesting. What you made me think of is also at this Commerce Summit, we're having a gentleman by the name of Michael Turpin speak, who's well known in the social space, and he's got a company called... I know
Michael well.
Yeah, he's got a company called BitAngels, right? And so he's really deep in this space. He's been putting together a lot of startups around the cryptocurrency area and has a lot of partners in the space. So one of the things he said to me, which it took him so long to explain it because I was at a table with some brand marketers and we were like, what are you talking about? And he said he thinks where this whole thing is going is that the exchange is going to take over the cloud, and that instead of the cloud being the distribution for the internet, that this new technology that this guy created that is the Bitcoin, exchange, the block, that's going to become the new internet. That we're all going to be exchanging content and services off of a Bitcoin block. What do you think about that? Is that crazy land?
I don't think it's crazy land. I think let's put it this way. Everything's crazy land in the internet. At the end of the day,
well said.
I don't know if it's going to replace the internet. I think that's a big statement, and not a big statement in terms of ambitious, but big as in the internet's bigger than how you transfer, all information. It's all the transfer of information. I don't think all the transfer of information needs to be done in an encrypted way, such as the blockchain. I think that definitely makes sense for a lot of the cloud computing stuff happening because it's just more secure, from my understanding. So that makes sense. At some point, it seems like it's incumbent on a lot of these types of companies to start utilizing that same type of technology to transfer data, which is exactly what they're doing with Bitcoin. So I understand what he's saying, and I think that that's very possible.
It's very interesting. So, and it was really hard for everyone at the table I was at. We were at South by, and we were having this conversation, and they couldn't wrap their head around it because no one really understands. Your average marketer, even technologist, doesn't totally understand Bitcoin. So then when you start to talk about it, not as a financial metaphor, but just as a facilitator of exchange, then people's minds.
Well, a lot of people don't understand cloud-based computing.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's just ridiculous. I mean, you just draw a picture of a cloud and 2 arrows, and you're fine. Well, my last question for you, I know, isn't it ridiculous? My last question for you, Erik, is where do you keep up? Where do you go to find out the latest? Because you are really someone that I always call, particularly around this topic, but just in general around the latest technologies online and what clients are actually doing. So how do you keep up with everything? What are you reading, or where do you go to find out new stuff?
So there's a few. Obviously, the typical TechCrunch, Mashable, all the Panda Daily, the typical tech publications that are super helpful because their job is to stay on top of it. So I let them do it for me. But I also surround myself with a lot of people in the industry, and even if let's say it's a digital marketer or an e-commerce company I'm not working with, there's no reason we can't be friends and share information. So I get a lot of insights from companies that aren't necessarily my clients either, that we still grab lunch once a month. We still talk about what they're doing and what we're doing. And, oftentimes I'll add value to them. And we really value ourselves as a company on execution. So I'm never afraid to share what we're doing or how we're doing it. I'm not going to share our customers' data, but I'll share the overall idea that email marketing is performing really well for us, or we're seeing great returns on Facebook, those kind of things that then if I share a little bit, the brands will share right back.
Well, that's a great point. So your network is really a great source of information, which I think a lot of our guests have said is that their network, they go out to lunch with their friends, they keep the conversations going. Do you attend a lot of trade shows? I know I invite you to speak at a lot of them, but are there some that you absolutely go to for your own hunger for knowledge?
To be frank, without trying to burn any bridges, I haven't seen anything recently that has just blown me away trade show-wise. Most of the time trade shows are a great place for me to meet people. It's not been a great place for me to learn new things.
Right.
And I've attended a lot of the retail trade shows, but that's because I'm not necessarily the audience. I'm someone that lives and breathes this every day. So if they catered to me, they'd have a lot smaller of an audience. And so it is tough for me to find, the trade show that would be good for me. What's been better, to be honest, are entrepreneur groups and smaller organizations that have either guest speakers and things like that, where I can go to someone that's very specifically someone I'm looking to learn from and talk to them. That's really where I'm going to be able to learn more.
So incubators, startup groups, organizations where people are doing new things and are sharing, things like that.
Correct. Yeah, and there's a lot of CEO, networking groups and things like that help a lot.
Well, that's great. I'm going to talk to you about that offline.
No problem.
So anything that we can look out for before we say goodbye that you just worked on, that just launched, or any of your clients doing anything that you want everybody to check out?
We've got a lot of great clients doing a lot of cool things. We just started working with Rachel Zoe and her Zoe Report. She just launched her subscription box that is really interesting because it's really a stylist coming into this that hasn't in that whole subscription space. So they sold out their first box in 4 hours. It's been pretty cool.
Wow, that's great.
Doing great things with InCase. So everybody knows them as like the iPhone laptop case company. They're really doing a lot of cool things. I mean, we have a ton of great brands. Buscemi Shoes, which has been the most shocking success story for me, because once again, not being the shopper I am, they're high-end shoes and almost like in a streetwear vibe, but at a very
high price.
High-end, very, very high-end would be the best way to put it. But the way they're growing, the way they're doing, the things they're doing, the way they've built the brand is just incredible. So they've been awesome as well. And a lot of great things.
Well, we'll check all of those out. Well, I'll be seeing you next week at the iMedia Commerce Summit, and you can check out other things about Hawke Media at hawkemedia.com. And then, Erik, what's your Twitter handle so we can follow you there?
At Erik Huberman, ErikHuberman.
And then, Erik, also, if you sign up on his site, he publishes a great newsletter that always has really good information about this space. So let's have a hand from our studio audience. It's so crowded in here. The women in the audience have been staring at your picture. Well, I hope you'll join us again, maybe in person if I don't call you like the day before. And realize and have a great Easter, Passover, or just a plain weekend, whatever you have going on. And thank you so much for joining us on the Tech Cat Show.
Thank you, Erik.
Thank you. Thank you. Talk to you guys soon.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up here. That was our deep dive into e-commerce and content and commerce coming together. And the fabulous Erik Huberman has so many interesting things going on. But definitely check out Hawke Media, because just their model alone, if you're a small company and you need some marketing services, he's just got such a great model and such an insightful guy. And again, sign up for his newsletter and join us in a couple of weeks here on the Tech Cat Show. So lovely to see all of you, and have a great weekend with eggs, chocolate, and pot roast.
Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's UBNradio.com.